a partner in business, a partner in the community, an entrepreneur who is socially responsible. Let's imagine a businessman who is in business for the right reasons. Someone who is really looking out for his people, his community, and the youth who are coming up behind him. But he's in business. Imagine that. Now it's back with Sean Tye. Good morning, Mr. Sean Tye.
Good morning, Alicia. So happy to be here, and I want to applaud you for having this amazing platform for folks of color to have a platform. Honestly,
I appreciate that. I think we have the same social responsibility in mind. We're looking at the future and how we can really elevate our communities and our generations that are coming behind us.
And also want to say congratulations to you for learning through the Facebook Ambassador Program. One of the things that we do is reaching 800 students every year, community college, state level college students, is most of the students, they think they have to act like they know everything. And I tell them, I say, I'm still learning every day. I'm just sharing the experiences that I've had, but I'm still learning every day. I don't know the answers. And when they hear that, they get reassured that they're on the right track. So you are on the right track, even though you're accomplished. So congratulations.
And still learning. Right?
Absolutely.
Too old to learn. And that's why I love what you're doing now as executive director of Bridgegood.
Wow. So I started what was then Oakland Digital Arts and Literacy Center, is a long name. We started that in 2009. I was in my 20s, mid 20s. I was what I thought I knew everything, and I realized I didn't know anything. So I tried to start a nonprofit, thought it'd be easy. I bought a book off Amazon's How to Start a Nonprofit, which was ridiculous. I thought I could read a book and start a nonprofit. But what I ended up doing was I rolled into Oakland City Hall. And at Oakland City Hall, I met someone named Kathy Littles, who gave me a list of people to call. And she's like, this guy's not going to succeed at just randomly calling people. At that time, you notice I said calling, because it was calling before. So I'm calling people. And no one got back to me, Alicia, but one person. And this one person was named Donald Tamaki, who I didn't know at the time, but he was the godfather of Asian law, is what they called him in the community. He helped start the Asian Health Services. He started the Asian Law Caucus, probably one of the most renowned Asian figures in the Bay Area community. And he heard of my idea of tech and design for social good, called me to his office in Union Square. I wasn't dressed for it. He was in a business suit with two people next to him in suits, which I ended up learning was his son and his son's friend interning there. And they took on Oakland Digital at that time as one of their first pro bono clients. And they got us 501c3 certified with California, and they helped us set up our board of directors, articles of corporation. And really, without Donald Tamaki and his belief, I definitely would not be where I am today. And I think it's really important that we as leaders, if you want to call us that, I don't like calling myself a leader, but we as leaders have to acknowledge that the folks that put us on deserve a lot of credit, because if you don't pay it forward with acknowledgement, we one day will be the ones that help others pay it forward, right? So it's really important to always acknowledge others. And so Donald Tamaki, Manami Tamaki LLP, thank you for believing in Oakland Digital, now Bridgegood, 12 years later.
12 years, you're supporting and teaching 800 creatives.
Some are multimedia students, some are raw artists, some are graphic designers, illustrators, jewelry makers. And you have all of these artists, Alicia, that, let's be honest, they are more talented than anyone. However, they don't know how to put that to use in a practical tech sense. So how do I take this creativity and funnel into some kind of career? And that's what Bridgegood does. And our focus is user experience, UX, that we started doing around 5 years ago. Before it was known, no one knew what UX was 5 years ago, very few. Now it is very known, and we're very grateful that companies like Coursera, Google.org, all the boot camps out there are teaching this stuff, because it's basically process-driven art. to solve problems. And that's what UX is.
Wow. UX and then user interface.
Yeah.
What we see.
Correct. Yeah. To make it very simple, I'd say like UX is the way you feel going through a product. And then UI are the elements that you see. And in many cases, you're a UI designer, graphic designer, visual designer by putting together this slide overlay with the sponsors below, with the updating of the titles. So it's very closely related, but they're very different as well.
And as a matter of fact, you have something coming up on June 4th. It's a celebration of your new community design studio.
You know, when we opened, we started out of my mom's furniture store at 26 and Broadway in Oakland. She had been a small business owner for over 40 years. And after that, around the corner was a body shop, Uptown Auto Body, a local business. And they had a nice kind of like a entry area where we would train community members on how to use digital literacy, social media at that time. I think it was just Facebook and Twitter. And then we went into next door, which was the First Presbyterian Church. And we had Di Pagel allowed us to use an apartment in the church for about half a year before we met Ibalsi, who at that time's executive director was Jeremy Luke. Now, you notice I remember everyone's name that helped after Jeremy met me. He said, look, Sean, I have some empty spaces in Oakland, Chinatown. I know you don't have money. How would you like to do a barter where you can help our businesses in that Ibalsi ecosystem learn digital literacy, and in turn you get free space? We were in Oakland, Chinatown. We doubled our space in Chinatown, and then we said we need to triple it. And that's where we lead to today. So from Oakland, Chinatown, which we love, cherish, and honor, we're very proud of our history there, but we felt that in order to reach the masses, have deeper impact, give students a waterfront property, Alicia, that they can vibe out to and get that sun energy, we decided to move to Jack London Square. We've to date reached almost 7,000 students, but I think our goal is that year over year we reach more. So if we're at 800, hopefully we can reach 1,200 or 2,000 or 3,000 a year. And really with this space, it's also deeper impact, because one thing that students lack, Alicia, is the confidence of being in a studio, right? They've been at home now for over a year due to the pandemic. They forget what it's like to go to a tech company. Honestly, we've been hearing that. Our feedback, user feedback has been, what does it even feel like to walk into a Google now, a Twitter, a Salesforce, etc. Now, we're not going to be, and we don't have those resources that those big companies have, but the employees of those companies have certainly chipped in with volunteerism, with some donations. And then our board, of course, made that move to Jack London, and really it's those students that walk in and they go, wow, I made it. And even if it's that confidence booster, that's the goal of Bridgegood. It's that filling the gap between school and a job. And that's what Bridgegood wants to do.
You know, to bridge that, literally bridge that gap between the communities.
The students have the answers, we don't, Alicia. The young people have the answers, we don't. In 2015, there was a huge movement that started called Black Lives Matter. And in 2015 is when it became known on a global basis. And that year we had a Inspire Oakland billboard entry. We have this campaign called Inspire Oakland that you can learn about at bridgegood.org. But the goal of Inspire Oakland, Alicia, is to allow students to showcase their artwork through communities of color, specifically Oakland and the East Bay, and talk about what they feel through artwork. And at that time, Jack De Jesus, who is a local activist, I call him an artivist, he goes by Kiwi, he submitted a design at that time as a Laney College student. And his design was Black Lives Matter. So it was a Black woman in lockboxes, which, by the way, I did not know what lockboxes meant, but it's literally the lockboxes that go around your arms so people can't separate you when you're forming a line. What a powerful design that educates, that's edgy, but it's also very risky. Now, remember, in 2015, it was not cool to say Black Lives Matter. In fact, coming as a nonprofit run by effectively an Asian executive director, You're like, man, that's a risky move, right? And we, as a board and team, said, you know what, if that's what the students feel, if that's what the students want to vocalize through artwork and educate people, and as you're at bridgegood.com/inspire seeing some of those designs, it's so important that we allow students to do the work in terms of the community outreach, in terms of vocalizing their frustrations. There's one from Mark from last year that encapsulated Black Lives Matter, Oakland Pride. We just had our competition this year. And Alicia, half of them, the submissions of like literally hundreds, were Stop AAPI Hate. So again, going back, how do we solve it? We solve it by tapping into students and giving them the platform, investing in the artwork, because we have to spend money, Alicia. Those billboards are not cheap. You know that. You're in media. These billboards, these LEDs, these bus benches are expensive, but we invest in those to effectively create change, which is why we call it #DesignForSocialGood.
Just give the folks watching a little bit of about who you are and how where you grew up, and how this is the solidarity and the unity that people see is nothing new. It's been going on for years.
Yeah.
So
I've always loved hip hop, and I think we connected on that. I had a hip hop show called Pushing the Bay. You can still Google it. Pushing the Bay with Ray Love. Shout out to Ray. He's like one of my heroes and champions, but he grew up with Mac Mall, Tupac, Mac Dre. And I've always felt like the rap game taught me a lot about how to move, how to navigate as a human being. One thing about the Black community that I've always loved and still love, if you go out somewhere with someone, house party, family gathering, you kind of know who's real and you don't need to say it. So that instinct is kind of what I developed, like dealing with the right people, not wasting your time. And honestly, if you ride with someone, ride with them 110%. And if you don't ride with them, right? So I learned my game from that era, the 90s hip hop scene in the Bay. As one of my missions, Alicia, always wanted to connect the Asian and Black community, specifically in Oakland, Chinatown, because my mom's business was 26 and Broadway, which is now considered Uptown, which by the way, never existed before, but that's fine. I'd always walk to Chinatown from my mom's store. Chinatown's right next to that downtown, right? And in Chinatown, it's all Asian immigrants, right? So I never saw those two groups working together. So being a young person that was cultivated through hip hop, the music, the lyrics, the vibe, I always thought it'd be so cool to connect those two groups. So I'm kind of like happy, Alicia, that I've always wanted to do that even before it became, the thing about being cool, Alicia, is how to be cool before it becomes cool to the masses, right?
That's the ultimate cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Digital literacy in Oakland, 2009, it wasn't cool then, it's cool now. Social media for small business, 2012, did that at Oakland City Hall. No one heard of it, it's cool now. 2013, we introduced the hashtag Oakland City Hall. Wasn't cool, it's cool now. Google in Oakland, invited by us. Shout out to Mary and her husband, Steve, in Oakland, 2012, because of Oakland Digital. So like all these things that we see now, I only say those things not to spit out names, but as facts. Like, one thing is like blurting out things for no reason. Another is like, actually, you did it. There's receipts, there's proof. You can Google it, so, but I think, Alicia, the biggest thing I want to say is it's good that people catch on. It's good that people understand there's a digital literacy divide, and the traditional digital divide of hardware is from the 90s, right? So there's things that evolve. So as a funder, if there's people funding things, fund things that are new, that are the next step, not what's been done or copycats, because it's kind of like anyone that innovates knows fund people that have forward thinking, right? So we're really lucky that we have a few key funders and people have been showing us love and Craig Newmark of Craigslist is one of my heroes. He's been funding us for 6-7 years, maybe even more, I think 8 years. And he's just like, I don't do the work, I fund leaders that do good work. And I've always had an admiration for that mindset of someone that really understands it, because the folks that just do it performative wise, they do it for performance. So if people are giving you money to do the same thing over and over and over, don't take that money anymore, because it's going to fuel you to do mediocre work. I've been very lucky personally to have a great team around me, people that believe in Bridgegood, people that believe that 12-year track record is real. Honestly, Alicia, it's really my mom. It was the influence of hip hop. It was my car club when I was 16, running a car club of 40 people called Z Team Yossi. It was my brother who passed away in October, unfortunately. It was a lot of good people along the way, Alicia. And, you know, I'm going to be honest, with my brother's passing, he taught me so many lessons. But one of the biggest lessons he taught me, my brother Wilson Ty, was if a person or a thing brings you negative energy, eliminate it from your life. And that doesn't mean be a hater. There's a big difference, right? It just means that people don't align in this world necessarily, Alicia, with you. And you know what? It's okay, right? Like, if they don't align with you, that's great. But, you know, to Wilson's credit, he's like, he told me that in a time when he was hurting. And he's like, Sean, honestly, time's so important. He's like, just don't worry about that. Like, if someone brings you negative energy, keep it moving.
I really appreciate everything you're saying, because you're talking about the culture, really carrying a whole community forward. I can also appreciate the testimony about, you know, being a pioneer and innovator here in the Bay Area. For some reason, you know, we get it at a different time than the rest of the country, but what we do with it is something very different. It's an ongoing creative process that connects cultures and people.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of Bridgegood and Clari-T Media working now, because we can bring together more people, more ideas, and more great work.
In 2015, Google.org funded us for a platform called Bridgegood.com. And as we were reaching more people, Alicia, we had to really look closely and be like, we love Oakland, we're headquartered in Oakland, but how do we scale, right? And the problem was Oakland Digital Arts and Literacy Center couldn't scale. Like, you go to Stockton, which we do go to Stockton. We love Stockton. Shout out to Michael Tubbs, the former mayor. We go to Clovis, Fresno. We go to Richmond. We go to Daly City, San Mateo. You can't say Oakland Digital, because they're like, well, why are you over here? So Bridgegood was a way to get the mission, bridging good people to good opportunities, right? In the name. So that's why we became Bridgegood. And so the other thing we had to do, Alicia, was narrow down what we do. So before, we would help small businesses, we do connecting students to small businesses, we do a lot of offerings, and now it's Inspire Oakland, our design challenge, our UX design apprenticeship, which is a 3-month program to get students jobs, and then honestly, our fundraiser, right? So we had like 20 offerings before. So my advice to you as an entrepreneur is, what's that one good thing that you're good at? And then how do you quadruple down on that one thing? Right? Because you can't do everything really well. What's your unique selling proposition that you can offer the room? And focus on that.
I'm growing, and it means that I can't be the talent or the host anymore so much.
You know, and Alicia, I wouldn't, you know, you're a talent. You know, when we decided to select you for the Twitter fundraiser, Inspiration Awards 2019. I want to shout out Carl, the whole Twitter team, and BizStone for talking to our students for over 45 minutes. And MC Hammer, shout out to Hammer for showing up, who's one of my deepest allies and riders. He's a rider for real. We selected you because you had a really great story. And it's not just about, hey, let's pick someone because of one thing. It's you had an amazing story. You started out at Laney College, SF State, went to Cron 4, right? The founder and CEO of your own company. So just because others don't get it, Alicia, I didn't even tell you this before. I wasn't getting paid for 4 years. I was grinding legit. You can ask anyone that knew me or still knows me, and I was working 16 to 18-hour days, right? Between pushing the Bay, starting Oakland Digital. I was not getting paid for 4 years. And I'll tell you this, Alicia, if I gave up during that 4th year, you wouldn't even be talking to me, right? I wouldn't know you. You wouldn't have been able to meet some amazing people at that event. We wouldn't be talking right now with Clari-T Media. So taking calculated risks with goals attached to it, very positive, very positive.
Well, I can't ever give it up. I've been doing this since 1988, KTOR
Yes.
radio and all that.
Yes.
So the Bay Area is still on and popping.
Oh, the Bay is where people from all over the world want to be at, Alicia. I'm like, if I want to go get some banh mi, I go to Oakland, Chinatown. If I want to get some Filipino food, I go out to DC, Daly City. But whatever you need, you got it here. Soul food, whatever you want. Korean food, right? Ethiopian.
Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Absolutely. Going back to what you brought up first, Alicia, is how do we create change? It's through students, and creativity to me is the seed of change, right? And so how can Bridgegood plant those seeds so one day they become redwoods, and that's what we're trying to do is infinite forever. Bridgegood.